everybody. Welcome to the Bolters and Banter show. I'm Tyler.
I'm Nick, and I'm locked in.
And today we've got another lore-accurate video for you. But real quick, if you decide you enjoy this video and the series, let us know, and maybe what you would like to see next. We're doing a book club, so join the Discord as we'll be reading Xenos by Dan Abnett. Book club is being run by my lovely, beautiful girlfriend, Viridian. So again, join the Discord. We also have a book club app you can go ahead and join to add notes, and we'll be doing a video in probably like 2 months or something. As we near it, we'll probably get an actual date when it's due. So we did hire researchers, and we are still hiring unpaid researchers. We do not have money, so we cannot pay you. Everybody on screen right now is a researcher. We are still hiring. This is to not spread misconceptions in our videos. We want to make sure everything is accurate, and we just got our sources right.
Think of it less as hiring and more of conscripting.
Yeah, you are now in the guard. All right, Nick, go ahead and give us a rundown on what the lore accurate data sheets are about.
Absolutely. We try and take our typical, Cadian shock troop as a template, and then based on those data sheets, we come up with the movement, toughness, save, wounds, and leadership of a unit based on how it is in lore. The very first time we did this was based on Space Marines, seeing how they should be way tougher, faster, all that good stuff compared to humans.
Way faster.
Yeah. And the tabletop didn't really reflect that. So we made a lore-accurate Space Marine, and we also got a lore-accurate Orc. And so today, we are taking ourselves out of the slot farm and into the library, and we are going to get a true lore-accurate Custodian guard.
What was the yelling for? What?
I'm in so much pain from math.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. I mean, that's fair. I also read, all of Master of Mankind. Our researchers read an insane amount of books. There was a lot of effort put into this video.
Yeah, the lore-accurate Orc was very much my research, and I took the lead on that. You seem to be the one to take the lead on this one, Tyler. Any particular reason why Custodes really, are kind of your thing here?
So I wanted to do this because there were a couple people wanting this video to be done. There's one guy who even said he'd given me a Custodes model. I'm not holding him to that, but that would be cool. But I do like Custodes. I like them for their connection to the Emperor. Out of everything that the Imperium has to offer, they're the only ones that really know who the Emperor is. So, I don't know, I like them for that. They were one of my first armies, and I did read quite a bit of Custodes lore back then.
Oh, yeah? And how many Custodian books have you read?
Oh, jeez. So, I read the two... I think his name's Valerian. It's been a while since I read him. The two Valerian series books. I read Master of Mankind. Valdor, if you want to count that. It's not really Custodes.
He's still technically a Custodian. He's a Giga Chad. It's like comparing Sigismund to an average assault intercessor.
Yeah, but Birth of the Imperium doesn't really follow Valdor that much.
Okay.
Anyways,
right.
But I read those. I read a little bit of other stuff, and we're going off that. And we also, in the description, have a list of all of our sources, if you would like to go through them.
Absolutely. And I will say, we needed that because my only perspective on Custodian lore is scraps of the 10th edition Codex and the First Heretic. And if you guys have read the First Heretic, it doesn't do Custodians that much justice.
Oh god, are they just golden Space Marines? Do they get butchered?
One of them gets shanked with a bone in the eye and dies. like a bone spear. It's... Whew.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, with doing these, things differ via books, but we kind of stuck to what we see is, our idea of what a Custodian actually can do.
We are trying to go based on if there's any sources that give us concrete numbers or comparisons to other things, that gives us the go-ahead. Because if it just says, oh, they're superhumanly fast, well, so are Space Marines and so are Eldar. So how do they compare to each other, So we're trying to get something to at least dig our teeth into. And unfortunately, Tyler, you know what I've noticed?
There's nothing really concrete or tangible about a custodian's performance.
They're much more mysterious than Space Marines.
Oh, they're the super special Space Marines. Yes, I know they're the Space Marines.
Yeah, they like don't have the whole organ implants. You don't have like the list of implants. You don't have specifics for them. They are very much like we don't exactly know what their secret sauce is.
Yeah, we don't
really
know
that they're made special.
We don't really know how they're made. I've heard in Master of Mankind, one of the custodians mentioned something about a vitae fertile something machine. Not the vitae wombs from Krieg. It sounded familiar to that though. We know they don't have extra organs. There is not much to go off of.
You know what? It's vitae from Kane. They're vampires. Where are my Vampire the Masquerade people at?
And the crowd goes mid.
God damn it, dude. I like Vampire the Masquerade. But why don't we set some parameters for what our stats are going to be or what they're going to represent, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty. How's that?
Yeah. So let's go with... So to put these things into the tabletop, we need a starting point. We need something to reference to, and what better than the humble Cadian shock troops?
These are human beings, and we have the most reference to human beings out of anything else in this setting because they're just like us, you know? A Cadian shock troop is an average human being, just like you and me. So all we need is...
Except they can run for more than a minute.
Okay, well, never mind. I was going to say something really mean about our audience. Never mind. Cut it.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. So anyways.
Hold on, break for the cut.
Oh, okay. Are we still breaking?
So we need to decide what each of these characteristics means for Arcadians. First off, movement. This is not necessarily sprinting. This is more of the pace of like a brisk run, basically.
It's the max they can safely go in a round of 40k on the tabletop. It's their combat pace without tripping and making a fool of themselves.
Yeah, it's a combat pace while still firing at their base stats, basically.
Yep.
Toughness, we have two different definitions for toughness we've used in the past.
Just go with yours. We're just gonna stick with yours.
Yeah.
From now on.
One is how much concussive force it would take to basically stagger them, and another is what they can handle without being physically exhausted. And we'll get into which one we're using today.
Yep.
Save? That's pretty easy.
Yeah, so save is basically its ability to not take the wound. This could be, if it's a tank, its ability to bounce around. If it's, just like guardsman, his ability to get in the cover, and anything in between. It's not so much does the round penetrate, although it can be its actual armor density. It's just, can he avoid getting his head blown off?
Exactly. So quality of armor, where the armor is placed, and of course their tactical skill all have to do with this. That's why Eldari, like Harlequins in the tabletop, they have 6-up armor saves, but they have 4-up invul saves, which is a whole different thing.
Yeah. In terms of wounds, this is kind of the big one. This is where most of the math and the research goes into. To get the best reference on it, you should probably watch the Space Marine datasheet video as we cover that more in depth. But to give a quick rundown, basically one wound represents the entire, in video games turn, 100% health bar for a human. Absolutely.
You do one wound worth of damage, you kill one human.
Yep.
And we'll get to all the math behind it in a bit. And I think lastly is leadership.
Yeah, so we had some differing opinions on leadership, but I think we're going to go with mine. But actually, we'll probably debate it later.
We'll get to that.
So leadership, as I see it, is the unit's ability to stay on the mission. It's their ability to, not lose focus, to keep, taking the point, and to keep, obeying orders.
Exactly. It's different than morale. In our orc data sheet, we talked about this, where orcs, they rarely leave a fight, but also they're really hard to manage. So
Yeah, and with
That gets
Space
into the difference
Marines,
there.
it's really hard for them to, run away and flee, but they're really glory hungry and they want to, have all the cool honorifics, so they're going to charge into battle and get killed instantly.
Yep. By the way, in terms of OC, we're ignoring OC. It's mainly just a gameplay mechanic. There's not really anything it kind of represents in terms of like lore and stats. So we're just ignoring that. We're going with movement, toughness, save, wounds, and leadership. And Tyler, why don't we start with movement?
Okay. So movement for a guardsman is 6 inches.
We're talking about at a full sprint, a human, we decided, goes 15 miles per hour, right?
Yeah, it's about the average.
So realistically, we're looking at like 60% of that in order to be the equivalent of their normal movement, because sprinting is when you advance. So 9 miles per hour is equivalent to 6-inch movement characteristic, because humans can run at 9 miles per hour and still shoot and do things during their turn rather than just advancing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So 9 miles per hour, 6-inch movement characteristic. So all we need to do is find out how custodians compare to that 9 miles per hour, and then proportionally scale it up from 6-inch movement characteristic. Here's where things get a little weird. Tyler, what sources do we have for how fast custodians can go?
So from everything we've pulled from, we have 10th edition Custodes Codex. We have it's all 3. There's 3 End in Death volumes, right? It's just 3.
That's correct. We only used 1 and 3. I don't think there was anything from 2 that we really used a lot.
We used First Heretic, Vaults of Terra, the Carrion Throne, the Wolf Time, the Iron Kingdom, the Gates of Bone, Watchers of the Throne, and Masters of Mankind.
So, in that case, what I found, there's a passage from the Master of Mankind that talks about Grav Rhinos, which I think was cool. There's a Dreadnought that was running with a Grav Rhino, and there were custodians at full sprint following this Dreadnought into battle. That means that, okay, a custodian at full sprint, as if they're basically advancing, would keep up with a Grav Rhino. So that means we find a Grav Rhino speed, take 60% of it, that gives us custodian speed, right?
Okay.
Here's the problem. We don't know how fast a Grav Rhino goes.
Wonderful.
We know.
Now we need to read more books.
We know how fast a regular rhino goes, and that's 70 kilometers per hour, which is 44-ish miles per hour. That means that a rhino's, like a normal rhino's speed, is what we clocked a Space Marine as.
Yeah, so they can at least sprint as fast as a Space Marine. But I'm taking it as we're probably going to find out that they go faster than a Space Marine.
Oh, they absolutely do. In fact, I think there are multiple sources we have that say that custodians, like, they speed through ruins and Space Marines can't keep up with them when they're fighting together. It is absolutely the case where they're faster than Space Marines. And so it becomes a problem where if we go based on the Rhino stats, well, they're going to be a little bit slower than Space Marines. But, hey, you know what? What about the Impulsor? The Impulsor is kind of a Grav Rhino, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, okay, I assume the Rhino's probably a little bit heavier, but again, the Grav would probably negate that anyway, so it's really just how much the motors can put out. So, yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, so like an Impulsor would be kind of similar to a Grav Rhino. Hey, Tyler, we don't know how fast an Impulsor goes.
Oh, wonderful.
And also on the tabletop, they're the exact same movement speed, so I think that Games Workshop intends for them to be at least somewhat similar. So I guess that we're going to have to fudge some numbers here because lore as written, if a Grav Rhino goes the same speed as a regular Rhino, Custodes are slower than Space Marines, but that's not true based on the other sources. So, like, hey, why don't we compromise? Let's say they're like 25% faster than a Marine, slightly faster, right?
Okay.
Their reaction speed is much faster than a Space Marine, based on every other source. That doesn't necessarily mean that physically their muscles are able to push them farther, but I do think that if they move and run faster than Space Marines, their high reaction speed will allow them to maintain that speed without running into shit, meaning that they're more dexterous. So I would say 25% faster speed, And also, I think their interface with their armor is better. So
Okay.
I'm going to say, yeah, 25% more. We clocked our Space Marine at 18, so Custodian would be 21.
I think that's a pretty fair representation. I think it might be a little bit faster because Space Marines are a little bit taller, so they have a longer stride. And
Well, Space Marines are taller than Custodes?
no, I meant Custodes are taller than Space Marines.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So they have a little bit longer strides. So I think they'd be maybe a little bit faster than 25%. But I think 25% is a nice round number. So yeah, I mean, 21's pretty good.
Yep. I think I saw an estimate. If Custodians are 9 feet tall, and based on the, I think, second episode of the Tithes TV show, how fast that Custodian crossed ground to beat up that Lictor, I think it was running at like 25 miles an hour. So that doesn't sound like a lot, considering Space Marines can move at like 45, but still, if you're like in combat,
That Custodian also
you just
broke
rush up
into that 25-mile-an-hour sprint like instantly.
from nothing. Yeah. So like, yeah, I think 21 inches is completely fair, Tyler.
Okay, we're no fuck, I'm blanking on it. What's the game theory? Yeah, we're no like game theory or film theory, so I'm not able to like go through that video and measure it by like pixels. So we're gonna estimate it with like 25% faster.
Yeah. If we can get video or get numbers of exactly how much faster a Custodian is from Space Marine, we can go from there. As of right now, all we know is that Custodians are fast enough to be visibly outpacing Space Marines. That's why I say 25%.
There's something I'm just now thinking about that we may be able to use as a comparison.
What's that?
Do you know the speed for a Rhino? Like on the tabletop?
12 inches.
12 inches? I wonder.
Pulsar's also 12.
I wonder if we could compare, because Outriders are 12 inches and Dawn Bikes are 14. So maybe we could use that as like the graph.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, so 14 divided by 12 is 1.16667. Multiply that by 44 miles per hour. That's 51 miles per hour. 51 divided by 45 would still just be 1.667. So, 1.1, I got this. 1.16667 times 18. Oh, look, 21 inches.
Wonderful. Wow, you were right on the money, Nick.
I'm that guy, dog.
Just guessed it. Pulled it from his ass. Pulled it from the realms
oh my
of
gosh.
Zinch with
I'm
the
him.
correct number.
I am so him.
Not only that, but he did live math on video.
I am so back.
Wonderful. I would have failed. I would have known even what math to do.
Yeah, you know what it was? Mm-hmm. It was that I screwed up the 18 to 21 math, and then I came back to do correct math, and I still got 21. I did my initial math wrong, but guess what? The fact that you got the jet bike versus Outrider squad math, we did it.
Wonderful.
21.
Teamwork.
Easy. Done. All right. Toughness. You ready for me to say some of the stupidest things I've ever seen?
Are we covering Auramite wonkiness right now?
No, that's save. We'll get there.
Okay,
Toughness,
wonderful.
Tyler, there is no source of Custodians being hit with something in which they stumble. They just freaking take it.
Yeah, so Master
Autocannon rounds.
When I'm reading through it, like nothing happens. Nothing knocks them down. Nothing like stumbles them, gives them a little bit of like nothing. And this is after fighting in the webway for like 5 years.
Right. And so I think that we should go based on... I know for Orcs and Space Marines, we use the kinetic energies formula here. I think, why don't we switch gears? Why don't we use physical exhaustion?
Okay.
Because I think strength in weapon attacks would be more along the lines of like how much they can output. I think we go based on how long they can like last in terms of physically exerting themselves over long periods, because I think that might be more representative of what we're talking about. We gave a Space Marine toughness 8, which I think is fair. It's over twice the amount of length that a normal human can last fighting that long, and that's assuming Space Marines can turn half their brain on and off like a dolphin. So let's see how, and let me tell you, Tyler, Custodes are known for mainly being defensive compared to Space Marines, right?
I would say so. It's more of it's in their nature of being, defenders of the throne to hold their ground against an army.
Right. So they aren't necessarily tanks, they are bruisers basically. So they are meant to dish out punishment but also take it. Tyler, an average human, right? Do you know how long an average human can go without sleep?
I know there's actually a disease where it will kill the person after not sleeping. I want to say, I'm going to go with the rule of 3. I'm going to say 3 days is probably the max before you just kind of start tripping balls and then you die.
It is 72 hours.
Wonderful.
Very good. So the longest time someone has stayed awake is 11 days.
Oh, God.
However, it wasn't great. So he reported problems with concentration, short-term memory, paranoia, hallucinations. When he was asked to subtract 7, starting with 100, he stopped at 65. He forgotten what he was doing. Like, there's a lot of cognitive load. When it gets to 72 hours, your brain begins what's called, enter micronaps, where your brain tries to become asleep in small doses.
Oh,
your brain shuts itself down.
The Space Marine sleeping method.
Yeah, except humans, it doesn't work with humans.
We just die.
So, 72 hours. Now, in terms of combat effectiveness, you're going to be feeling that after 36 hours. In terms of you will be sluggish, not concentrating, things like that. So, that gives us at least a comparison. Let's say our guardsman is toughness 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
We could say that number will be proportional to the number of hours or days a human can be in protracted combat without collapsing, right?
Okay, are you using 36 hours for this?
I'm going to vary between 36 and 72. So I'll give us a range and we'll decide where to go from there.
Okay, because I was going to say, 72 hours, I don't think anyone's going to be really combat effective at 72 hours of sleep deprivation.
Exactly, but that's the point where their body just shuts down, basically.
Yeah, okay.
Now, you mentioned a Master of Mankind.
Yeah. So I know where you're going with this. So, yeah, in Master of Mankind, there is a part where basically the Custodians have been fighting nonstop, no breaks for... I'm looking at the source right now. So for 15 days straight of non-stop battle, they are fighting, swinging, shooting, and they haven't collapsed. I can even give you the quote. So, Ross slumped to the ground, his muscles in spasm, physically unable to bring himself to rise. The stims and adrenal spikes were wearing off at last, forcing him to confront the reality of his overworked body. He was poisoning himself with sleeplessness, his blood rich with chemical stimulants, and his thoughts prey to the distortions of a brain refusing the mercy of rest. By his loose calculations, he had been awake now for 15 days, fighting almost every minute since the walls fell. And he's becoming kind of combat ineffective at this point.
I mean, his body is not responding. I think that's closer to the 72-hour mark, personally.
Yeah.
So I think that based on that, if we take 36 to 72, right? My doorbell just rung.
I thought that was like a school bell. I thought you were in school. I was very confused.
I'll be back.
Okay.
Hold on.
Ooh, wait. This is a wonderful time to do something. So, I cooked up something for you guys that's pretty cool. This is to drive engagement because, as you maybe know, YouTube comments push engagement, and that pushes the channel to growing. So here's something I made. Hope you guys like it. This is gonna be a series, and it's probably gonna be in every video as long as I can keep up with the workload. So Talis, go ahead and roll it.
With the Imperium divided by the rift, and the fortress world, Cadia, destroyed, the Imperium turns to desperate sources for heroes. On the slot farms of Bolters and Banter Primus, the Department of Munitor recruits a hog. He is bestowed sentience by the Adeptus Mechanicus, and to fill the chain of command, promoted. And it was then he was transformed. He departs the Segmentum to aid the Imperium. He's known by one name, Hogisar Boric, and his fate is in your hands. By engaging in the following ways, you will support the Hogisar. However, without it, he will fail. Fulfill the Emperor's will.
My lord, the ship has lost the void!
Get to the Valkyrie.
All right, I'm back. Sorry, dude. A package that was supposed to be here yesterday just arrived. Yeah.
Okay.
I went out. I saw there was no one at my door, and I'm like, yeah, I strapped my knife to my belt, headed outside, and it's like, oh no, it's just an Amazon person. I'm like, oh shit. Sorry
Okay,
about
well,
that.
that's fine, because the viewers just watched Hogisar Boric.
No way.
Yeah, I
He's
use that
here.
as my ad break.
Oh my gosh, dude! From the slot farms, he rises.
Yeah,
this is who we've been feeding all along.
It's beautiful. I thought it was really fun to do. You got to thank the Discord for it. Everybody kind of pitched in creating what is to be Hogisar Boric. So yeah, this is what we're going to use to drive up engagement. So make sure you comment, and the more you do, the better his legacy will be.
Give the Hogisar the slop. This is in order.
Yes, give him the slop. Anyways, back to the video. We were at, you just said you think that would be like the equivalent of 72 hours of sleep deprivation.
Yes, exactly. So I think if it's 72 hours of sleep deprivation, I think that equivalent, let's call it at like between 5 to 10 times the toughness of a human being, 3 days compared to 15 days. Let's say he was still mentally aware of like, oh, he was a little bit out of it. His body was shutting down, but I think that he wasn't dying.
So yeah, so if I remember correctly from Master of Mankind, at this point he's really losing the will to fight, but then the Emperor shows up and he gets another, like burst of energy. So he's nearing his limit, but he's got a little bit of a reserve still left.
So it would be a little bit like less than the 72-hour mark. So
it's like just
even
before
after
he's going to collapse.
So we'll say that if 72 hours to 15 days is exactly 5 times the time, let's be generous and say 6 times. Okay. And that is his limit. That'll be like a little bit more, right?
Okay.
And that means if a custodian is, let's say, going to be 6 times as tough as a normal human, and a normal human is toughness 3, that puts a custodian at about 18 toughness.
Yikes. What did we have for our Space Marine?
8. So just around half.
Whew.
To be fair, a custodian being twice as tough as a Space Marine kind of makes sense.
Yeah, no, that fits. Do you, off the top of your head, can you think of any units that are toughness 18?
No, I believe a Warhound Titan is toughness 14.
Yeah.
Let me grab
already
the Warlord.
Let
me grab the Warlord Titan. Yeah, let me grab the Warlord Titan real quick.
We gotta step it up to the Warlord. Let me check the
Warlord
Reaver.
Titan is toughness 16. He is tougher than a Warlord Titan.
So we don't even
Fantastic.
need to go to the Reaver. So yes.
good.
So it is confirmed a lore accurate custodian datasheet has more toughness than a Warlord Titan.
When it comes to getting a wound through, good luck.
Good luck.
Keep on ticking.
He truly
They'll
is a
keep on
one-man
ticking.
army.
Exactly, that's their point. Now, this is different than wounds. This is toughness. Keep that in mind.
Yeah. So even if you can go through, we still have wounds. So who knows? I don't know what we got for our wound count yet.
And even before we get to wounds, what about the saving throw, dog?
Oh God. Okay, let's do
So-
save.
This is actually really easy. 2-up. Here's the thing. I hate the way I talked about this in my Space Marine episode. I hate the way Games Workshop does saving throws.
Yeah, there's only but so high or so low you can do.
It's 1 through 6, and that sucks because, like, okay. This is our previous discussion, right? That means if you have, like, let's say a 2-up save, any shot will have the 1 in 6 chance to penetrate the armor of the target, assuming it has enough kinetic energy.
So I mean,
That means
go ahead.
like a guardsman having a 5-up save means that on average a shot that delivers enough energy to wound is also going to go through their armor 66% of the time. That makes sense for a guardsman because only certain sections of the guardsman body is armored, and having cover covers more of their body with stuff that I want to penetrate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, dude, a 1 in 6 chance is way too high of a chance for a Space Marine, let alone a Custodian. We know for a fact that Space Marines, the punishment they can take is way less than the Auramite armor of Custodians. Dude, have you read some of the stuff about Auramite armor?
Yeah. Do you want a quote on Ormite?
Yeah, dog. So here's the thing, all right? An autocannon is shooting a Custodian, right? The autocannon scores 2 hits on the Custodian. One on his chest with enough force to drive the breath from his lungs, and the other hitting the elbow joint on his right arm. Joints in armor are the weakest part. But guess what? He felt some pain. It almost shook his spear from his grip. Almost. That was an autocannon round.
Yeah.
Hello?
So I think I recorded a clip from Master Mankind that I'll go ahead and play now.
Does copyright issues? We're taking a recording from an audiobook. How does
Yeah,
that
but
work?
it's only like 10 seconds. I think that should fall under fair use.
Okay, man. Whatever you say.
If I gotta cut it later, I will.
All right.
So, Auramite is not like Ceramite. That is, as Auramite is described in the lore, now this is kind of doesn't make sense, especially if you read most books with Custodes in them. Physical matter, quote unquote, can't destroy Auramite armor. You basically need funky warp stuff to even penetrate Auramite armor, and even then you're not destroying it, you're just like reshaping it. You're just kind of like you're putting a toothpick through like butter. You're not actually taking away anything, you're just moving through it.
That makes a good amount of sense, yeah.
So it's really insane how strong Auramite is. But at the same time, you know, Custodians have to die in lore, so sometimes they die to like a bone shank.
Don't remind me, dude. Don't remind me. Like, I love the First Heretic. It's a good book. The Cadia passage,
Yeah.
it could have been better done. That's all.
So
The follow-up Warp Storm thing, the follow-up, like, turning off the Gather Fields in the Warp, pretty awesome. But other than that,
yeah. So back to saves again. It's going to be a 2-up. We can't, like, realistically, it'd be like a 1-up, but you can't do that because then that just means they're like invincible. There's no. We can't get a good representation because of how GW has data sheets written.
All right, so we'll say, like, we have to give him a 2-up. That's just the only way to do it. We can't do any like damage types or armor thresholds or anything. So, well, you know this is going to happen. We can't give them anything else but than a 2-up. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, okay, wounds. Is it time?
Yeah, let's do wounds. The wounds is, if you've watched the previous videos, and if you haven't, you should. This is where my brain kind of has been broken. Let's go over how we account for the 1 wound for a guardsman.
All right, so 1, imagine that as like 100 HP.
Yes.
Almost. And you can break that down into, out of all the different ways a guardsman can die, what is the proportion of deaths that you're going to have?
Yeah, so
and
to do this...
out of those, oh, sorry, go on.
No, you're okay. So do this, I basically had to find a statistic on in-combat casualties, specifically fatal ones, but someone actually commented that it should be really for like knocking them out of the fight, but we kind of wrote this for fatality, so that's what we're going with. Anyways, this statistic was really hard to find because most of what you will find is for preventing casualties, because that's what people want to do. It's about preventable blood loss, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the depressing stuff. And I have this source. It's not really the most accurate or credible, but I think it's reasonably so. And this is Warhammer. Nothing is really makes sense. So this is what I'm going with. So we have broken up the 100% health pool into 4 categories. This being head and neurological trauma. The statistic that we got for this was about 36% of casualties is this. We have torso and internal trauma. This is 41% of casualties. Blast and extremity trauma. This is going to be like blood loss and shock. This is about 14%. And respiratory, this is, like collapsed airway, collapsed lung, stuff like that. That's only about 8%. And all of this together, this goes into our 100% guardsman 1 wound.
Right, and so all we got to do is figure out how much of those are each going to be affected by the custodian's physiology, then divide by like whatever proportion extra we think they'll live by, add up the new total, and see proportionally how many more wounds they should have. For example, our Space Marine, I think we end up with the fact that when we added up all the points, they would have basically half the amount of deaths that a human would have, so we gave them 2 wounds. An Orc, we gave 6 wounds. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so Space Marine surprisingly wasn't that high, but I think that we're going to get some pretty high with this. I don't know, though. Do we want to do head and neurological trauma? Because I do have an awesome quote for this one.
We actually have a pretty good source for this.
Yep. So in Master of Mankind, there is one custodian. He's running up to his buddy, and he's like, yo, hey, we gotta leave. There's too many demons. And he gets a glimpse of him, and this is what he sees. Jahaza had lost half of his face, his features abraded down to the bone. One eye gone, his jaw hanging slack. He didn't have enough muscle left on his face to speak. Up close, the damage was far worse. Jahaza's helmet had been wrenched clear, taking a significant section of the back of the warrior's skull and brain matter with it. Yet the custodian was fighting on, facing the creatures, surging across the bridge, spinning his spear and building momentum. The fact he still stood with those wounds defied reason. Jahaza had no idea he was already dead. So basically, this custodian was missing half of his brain, it was leaking out, and he is still absolutely slaying demons Doom style.
Exactly, and I think for that reason, we'll say, okay, headshots, they're like 36%. We'll divide it by 3.
Which makes sense. I think our Space Marine was 2, maybe? Actually, no, our Space Marine was like 1.5 or something.
Yeah, our Space Marine was 1.5 because Space Marine's like, headshot's a headshot.
Yeah, it's, they don't really have any crazy stuff.
Yeah, they have slightly thicker skulls. Like, It's not orc level, but it's definitely enough where you could tell if that guy was still properly fighting, it would probably take 2 more to put that guy down.
Yeah.
So I would say we'll divide that by 3. Torso and internal, do we have any sources about, like, gut shots, organs? Wait, we have no idea what the internal organs of a custodian look like, do we?
No, we do. Well, we don't know what they look like, but we do know that they do not have any extra organs.
No gene seed.
Yeah, well, so it's no gene seed, and they have no surgical additions. I have another quote for this, if you would like it.
Go, hit me with it.
So this is, again, from Master of Mankind, sorry. The warriors of the Space Marine Legions were raised through a similar process to the 10,000, albeit, but in the coldest and cruelest imitation. And then it has a custodian's name, but I wasn't able to write down because I got this from an audiobook and I don't know how to spell it. Blank had been reshaped at the fundamental level with perfection threaded through his blood and bred into his bones. In contrast, his lesser cousins amongst the 18 legions had been cut open with knives and implanted with false organs relying on surgical ingenuity. Now, there's another source that basically says they have no organs. I think this is from the 10th edition Codex. Yes. So, the Adeptus Custodes inductees are remade at a genetic level. This process involves incredibly intricate gene craft and alchemistry, working upon the most minute level of the candidate's cellular structure and genome, employing techniques that could have only been envisioned by the Emperor himself. The work done to is thus invisible.
Dog.
The process unique to each inductee. There are no organ implantations or surgical grafting. So they only have the organs that they are born with. They are just absolutely overclocked to 10,000%.
So no, like, fused rib cages. No,
well, they
like,
might have
black
a fused rib cage, but no, I don't think they do. I think it's literally just a human, but way bigger, way jacked, and everything is like 1,000% better.
So that's why, unless we have a source kind of like the one from Master of Mankind, where it's like some dude is missing half his brain, we can only do so much. So I'm going to say we'll divide torso and internal by 2.5. I think this is less generous than what we did for the Marines. Marines have a lot of tools to resist respiratory and internal failure.
Yeah, so if you think about a Space Marine and what they're going to be engaging, they are meant to be, pretty expendable comparatively to a Custodian. Their armor isn't really... It's nowhere near Oromite, so it's designed to break at some point. At that point is when the Space Marine body's supposed to take over. And I think that's kind of the philosophy behind it. A Custodian... If a Custodian is taking damage past his armor, he's probably already doomed. The Oromite is really his saving grace, because nothing really should be able to penetrate that. Whereas a Space Marine, it's only going to take a bolt round or two before that armor cracks.
Right. Now, if we could assume that like most of their internal organs can handle this, that's cool. And I think also keep in mind a wound threshold. Custodians can regenerate. They are able to knit back their flesh together. I don't think Marines really have that. Marines form scar tissue, and they can resist a lot of damage based on the fact that they can like stop the bleeding, but Custodians re-knit their tissue together.
Where in the sources of this? Because I have not heard this, and personally, like for me, that doesn't make sense because Custodian dreadnoughts are a thing.
Okay. Watchers of the Throne, Emperor's Legion. My fighting was badly hampered by my wound. Although my sinews re-knit and my bones reformed, even as I still wielded Gnosis, such was my resilience of my gene-wrought body. Okay.
So maybe not like they can just regrow an arm like a lizard, but they can...
Exactly.
It's like mid-battle repair of, can we get the arm working again?
Yeah, so I would say I'm going to divide it... Space Marines we divided by 3, Custodians, I'm going to divide by 2.5. I'm going to be less generous.
I think that's okay because, again, I think it's about the performance of the organs and not having fail safes or, contingencies.
Yes. Yeah, there's just less to lose,
I think that's
Blast and Extremity, I believe I did the exact same thing. I just divided by 4 because, it's... I mean, you can shoot off an arm and they're fine. Again, they ran it themselves, so whatever.
Yeah, I honestly think you could probably have a Custodian as just ahead for at least a day.
Yeah, right. So Blast Extremity divide by 4. Respiratory, they don't have a multi-lung.
Yeah, I don't got anything on this. I don't remember anything of a Custodian just I'm gonna take my helmet off and walk out in space. So
yeah,
it's basically the same.
But they don't get tired, so I'm actually going to argue that, again, I'm also being less generous with this one. I'm going to give them divide by 1.5. Space Marines, we divided by 2 because they have an extra lung.
Yeah, and I don't think it's so much their lungs are what's preventing them from being tired. It's just that they're extremely optimized.
Right. So I think really we're going to be carrying this based on their head trauma. We don't have any sources for torso and internal respiratory, so we're just going to assume they're worse unless something else says otherwise. Which means
go ahead.
Which means that because head trauma is so common and we have a concrete source saying that they could survive a lot of punishment there, that brings us to a total of 36.73 out of 100, which puts us to an average of 2.72 wounds, rounding up to 3.
Okay, so one more wound than our lore accurate Space Marine.
And it's tabletop accurate.
Yeah. I mean, hey, sometimes GW gets it right. With the Space Marines, 2 wounds. Sometimes they get it.
Yeah, Custodians are 3 wounds. If you really want to say so because they can regenerate, small shots won't build up on them as quickly. Death of 1,000 cuts doesn't work on them. You need one big punch. Something that helps with that is, I think, Feel No Pain abilities. So, 3 wounds, but give them a 5-up Feel No Pain or something, and give them that damage reduction, so that small stuff, they might be able to bounce off and be fine, and maybe ignore some. Big stuff, it's gonna punch through them.
Okay,
You can also just ignore the Feel No Pain and just say, hey, 3 wounds.
Yeah, I don't know. I think a 4 or 3 Feel No Pain might be pretty good, but I'm not
4
good.
3 up.
Oh wait, never mind. I'm going backwards. Yeah, 5 up Feel No Pain.
Yeah, 33%. I think 33% chance to ignore is fine.
Yeah, I think that's okay. Sorry, I was going backwards with. Yeah.
No worries. So 3 wounds with a 5-up Feel No Pain as a caveat. Feel free to remove the 5-up Feel No Pain if you're writing the first heretic.
Okay. Just if you're writing, just ignore everything in this and just make him die to a bone chink.
Yeah, that or to be fair, also possess Space Marine. I'm pretty sure Arl Tall ate one's head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, we gotta talk about leadership. This is the last one.
Yeah, so this we had a little bit of points of contention on.
It depends on the definition of leadership. Custodians, I believe, if an objective is not directly tied to the sanctity of Terra, they are more likely to abandon, regroup, and do something else. I think Space Marines are more willing to fight and die. However, if a Custodian is on a mission that directly serves Terra, such as being in the War in the Webway, such as being in, I would argue, Segmented Pacific is fine the Tyranids, because they're heading for Terra, they are going to be more likely to stick around than Space Marines.
So, I understand that, but the thing is, with Custodians, and especially modern day lore, with them now being the Adeptus Custodes, and, the Soul Blades and whatnot, they're only going out, you're only ever going to see them in combat if it is absolutely necessary for them to be there. If they are not there, the Emperor could be in 0.0005% more danger, which is unacceptable to a Custodian. So I view it as leadership is their tendency to lose focus, to lose motivation, or to ignore the objective, all of which a custodian will never do.
The custodians don't do that. They are known for standing in the palace on watch. They are due for retirement if they hesitate for like a tenth of a second. They stand the guard.
So
and I'm thinking like
custodians have a thing like where they're the ones that are tasked with being in the emperor's presence and protecting him. Like that's like, oh, that's the coolest thing. And the longer you can last, the better. I think the longest is only like 100 days or something. So, like, I mean, if you think about like how hard it is probably to be in the emperor's presence, like that's a lot. They really will do anything. I mean, if the emperor told like any custodian to fall upon his guardian spear, they wouldn't hesitate for a second.
Yep, and I find that it's weird considering how custodians don't fight as a team in terms of coordination with their fellow unit, not even their fellow like units on the tabletop, but also within their unit themselves. So that lack of cohesion, not saying they don't know tactics and group tactics, they do, but it's not in their genetics like a space marine is. So
if you
that's
want them,
why
I have something for that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So with that though, the thing is custodians live for essentially forever. We don't really know if a custodian has ever or will ever die from age, but you have to think that custodians are fighting alongside their brothers, quote unquote, every day for, thousands and hundreds and tens of thousands of years. They know what every other custodian is going to do, so they don't really need to have that space marine, take the left flank. It's just they know what their brothers are going to do. And
right. They're
really
not
brothers, but, yeah.
mass-produced child soldiers. Well, I say mass-produced.
Mass-produced child soldiers.
They're not. Space Marines are not mass-produced.
They're specialized, genetically bred child soldiers.
Yes. So that's why I think that comes to a point of contention. Because at first, I was thinking, give a custodians a worse leadership than a Space Marine. But I think you have the point that if a custodian is on the battlefield, they're there for Terra.
Yeah.
They will not give up until the objective is done. I think the only time that would happen is, I don't know, maybe psycho shenanigans, or maybe it gets to the point where they're like, okay, we could stop them and sacrifice themselves here. If our sacrifice doesn't even slow them down, then it's just a waste of efficiency. But that's like rare.
So
because you're a custodian.
So here's the thing. Custodians, for all intents and purposes, are... It's a little weird. They're basically immune to the warp.
Well, they're not... they're not immune to the warp. Warp is one of their big weaknesses, if I recall correctly.
Not really. They're kind of psychically innate. It's a little tricky because, like, I think it's the Carrion Throne, they're fighting a lot of demons, and Valerian is like, oh wow, that's kind of trippy, and then he just stabs a demon. But, like, I don't know. I don't think, realistically, so I know they'll never fall to chaos. No custodian has ever fallen to chaos. That's impossible. They are soul bonded to the Emperor. I don't think it's possible for a custodian to be, like, possessed. So I think in terms of losing focus, battleship or leadership wise, I don't think it's possible through psychic means. It's not mean they can't, like, get warped lightninged, but I don't think they're gonna, oh the psyker's on my head, I need to run away.
I think it's impossible for a unit to be completely immune to leadership or immune to battle shock if they have any rational thought. Because if they can be convinced, like, If you are a robot with a pre-made program to say, okay, run this program, and it just goes and does the thing, it has a set loop. You can't change that. Custodians are still people, so I think there might be a slight chance, but like, we're talking 3-up or 4-up leadership.
I think that's fair because Custodes, each one is an individual and a work of art, so they do all have their differences. And if we want, I can't really remember any confirmed things of like a custodian, like basically breaking leadership. The only thing that can come to mind is in Master of Mankind. One custodian is fighting the webway, and he charges ahead, and that gets him killed. But it's not like he wasn't doing it for glory. It's to push the advantage, but at the same point, that is kind of abandoning the objective, so they can... I want to say that they can fail leadership, because again, they can make those miscalculations, even though they're infinitesimally rare and unlikely to happen.
So, Tyler, would you say that a 8% or a 3% chance is more accurate here? We're talking 1 in 10 versus like,
I don't know,
1 in
3%
35.
honestly feels more custodian to me.
All right, that is a 3-up leadership.
Okay, so final data sheet. Let's run through it. 21 inches of movement, toughness 18, 2-up save, only 3 wounds, and an astounding leadership of 3-up.
There you have it. The custodian data sheet. We are not doing their attacks.
No,
and their weapons.
If you ask us to do the weapon profiles, you can unsubscribe.
No, we can't do that. Like human level things, like play Necromunda. Maybe we could put some things in there. We can't do Guardian Spears.
So one more thing. Somebody had left a comment on the lore accurate datasheet videos where he's basically adding points values. He's up on screen now.
Oh.
I think that's pretty neat. Do we want to guess a points value for this? And I'll pin whatever his comment is for the confirmed points value.
Are we throwing a 21-inch movement, toughness 18, 2-up armor save, leadership 3-up model?
So how many points? It has 3 wounds? How many points is the Warlord Titan?
Oh, 3,500.
So like an even 4,000?
No, here's why. It's only 3 wounds.
Oh,
you're gonna be. Here's the thing.
That's a good point. The Warlord Titan has
It doesn't matter that he's toughness 18.
Yeah.
If you're strength 9 or lower, you still have a 1 in 6 chance to wound, and then if there's no AP on it, has a 1 in 6 chance to fail. I'm an orc player. I get enough choppas in there. I'm gonna get you.
One of them will go through.
I will get you. I throw enough orcs at you, you will die. I would say. Also, we're not, again, assuming that attacks and everything are the same as they are in 10th edition, assuming we're not changing any other data sheet in the game. I think this guy is like less than 200 points.
Really?
3 wounds.
Okay.
It's 3 wounds for one guy. This is a character.
Yeah.
Like, toughness 18, yeah, you're not going to be wounding him that much. Only 3 wounds. Like, you know, it's a guy.
Yeah.
21 inches of movement is really scary.
Yeah, 21 inches. He's on every objective all at once.
Does he still have deep strike?
What, a custodian? What?
Yeah, from Golden Light. Do you still get deep strike?
I have no clue. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay, in 9th edition, they had the ability called From Golden Light, where all people wearing Oromite basically had Deep Strike. Because they would just sew up from Golden Light and go... Bwah!
Okay, sure.
Here, let me show you. Hold on. Custodian Guard. Custodian Guard have Deep Strike. Okay, cool. So, imagine rapid ingressing this thing. Rapid ingress 18 inches away behind a piece of cover as an infantry. You don't get shot. On your turn, 21 inches guaranteed charge. Insane.
I think what's really funny if we think about this in tabletop stand, like if I just drop this on a normal 40k game, is that toughness 18. Like abilities with mortal wounds should be able to pass through it, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to tank shock them. That's about it.
Here's how you defeat it. Here's how you defeat this Custodes. Get a rhino and just shove it.
Insert
think about it.
the
Tank
dreadnought
shock.
throwing the rhino or the one from Space Marine 2.
Oh, dude, think about it. 3 wounds. Tank shock, 33% chance with 5 ups. On average, all you need is a toughness 9 vehicle.
Okay.
All you need is like a chimera to run him over.
So all right. So the video is coming to an end. We have confirmed the Custodes' biggest weakness is chimeras running them over.
Just like every other edition in this freaking game, mortal wounds are the custodians like counter.
Hey, that's we did confirm that mortal wounds really are the best way to deal with a custodian.
It's something, dog. It's something.
So to wrap up the video, if you guys like this and there's something else you'd like to see next, go ahead and leave a suggestion, whether it's an Imperial Knight, a Warlord Titan, or, I don't know, a Harlequin, if you really want me to read just no lore and guess everything. Also, if this video is a little bit weird with the opening and whatnot, I'm trying to make the production value a little bit better, so that involves scripts and some other stuff, so it's gonna be a learning process for me to kind of I don't know, to just really put it all in and make it good.
We can't spend 30 minutes doing a bit about that guy again.
Yeah, also, like, with our notes, everything's gonna be in the description. It's hard to read all this during the video, and I spent so long working on the Hoggassar Boric meme for me to Nick had to take over. So sorry if this wasn't the best, Noah. I hope you liked it. Go ahead and play with your lore accurate Custodes Datasheet. Maybe if we get enough units, we can run a game with lore accurate units.
Oh, Christ, dude. Yeah, you want to do that? Watch my Orc Pain Boy one-shot your Custodian with his Erdy syringe. See how you feel. D6 mortal wound, shit-ass.
So, anyways, that's it. That's all we have from Bolters and Banter today. Nick, you got anything you want to leave off on?
I think that every one of these Custodians should have the character keyword, because every Custodian is a main character.
Yeah. Other than what is his name? It's like Dimicles. It's someone with a D in Master Mankind. He's like one of the main characters. I hate him. He's just so boring. He's no character, even though he is a character. Just lame.
You know, that's why you gotta read Xenos books. Every Xenos is entertaining.
Anyways, that's it. Make sure you watch the new videos coming up, because something pretty big is happening soon. I don't know when. Join the Discord, join the book club. That's it. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.